Saturday, the 10th of September, starting my third week coming up on Wisdom Road. I'm coming to you from the Pahasapa, otherwise known as the Black Hills. Pahasapa is the Lakota name for the Black Hills, their ancestral and spiritual homelands. I've been camped here for a couple of days. It's gotten chilly. We had some rain, but the heat is coming back, and I'm headed over into South Dakota tomorrow to continue the journey with a lot of visits to some Lakota reservations and then on eastward across South Dakota. Thought I'd start today with just reading a couple bits that I wrote as I was coming north through the eastern side of Wyoming. Along the eastern edge of Wyoming, the last mountain outliers of the distant Rockies die out into the Great Plains of America. To the east, there's nothing that could be called a mountain until the Appalachians rise up somewhere in Kentucky, West Virginia, Ohio, or Tennessee. But those that think these plains are flat have never been here, or they have not given it a good long look. West Texas is flat. Big parts of Nebraska and Iowa are flat. These western edges of the Great Plains are more like gently rumpled bed sheets. They're flat sandstone cliff edges. They're long, sinuous badland draws that erode headwards into the grass, mostly hidden from sight until you're right on top of them. They're long, lazy slopes and broad, shallow buffalo wallows. There's almost always something on the horizon other than the gentle curvature of the earth. Heading north out of Wheatland, the two-lane winds through red limestone and gray sandstone hills topped by sparse juniper and an occasional pine tree. At the hamlet of Guernsey, the North Platte River runs wide, swift, clear, and cold, looking like it ought to be full of fat trout, by far the most water I've seen since I turned my back on the Pacific Ocean 1,400 miles ago. I guess ranches here must be 30, 50, 100,000 acres. A 50,000-acre ranch will support about 3,000 head of cattle at best. All of the island of Manhattan is 14,000 acres and change. Manhattan would support less than 1,000 head, which would not last long in the places where our hamburgers are made. I spent several days with just great interviews as I worked my way up the eastern side of Wyoming in the little town of Chugwater and then the slightly larger towns of Wheatland and Newcastle. And I thought I'd share with you some of the quotes, and it was, boy, is it hard to willow down just a few quotes from these great folks that I've interviewed, but of course I'm putting more of them into my blog. These were all older folks, people who'd grown up on the farms and the ranches, a lot of them just after the Depression. Their parents had grown up during the Depression. These are folks that worked hard their whole life. Boy, do they know the meaning of hard work, something a lot harder than most of us know. And I think one of the big takeaways from the week was that the vast majority of us, and especially the vast majority of young people in America, we just have absolutely no idea, and it's impossible for us to empathize with the lifestyle of people who've grown up in these small rural ranching and farming towns, especially those that grew up in the decades of the middle of the 20th century. Anyway, from Chugwater, these are some mixed quotes from some various folks. They were all kind of finishing each other's sentences. Grammy taught us to be generous with our time because she always had time for us. You know, to just be there for people. Make time for people. If someone in the community needed anything, you were there for them, no question. It's the business of the media to try and get viewers, and they can get viewers by making things that breeds crazy, just craziness. You know, the crazier the better. Small communities work because people show up and take on jobs that need doing. Up in Wheatland, I had a full day of interviews. Sharon Utter said this, 100%. They say it takes a village to raise a child. We didn't have a phone. I still don't know how my mom and dad knew if we did something wrong in school, but by the time we got home from school, they knew about it. If we had term limits, maybe people wouldn't be so me, me, me. If people would quit thinking, I'm better than you. I think with term limits, people would realize they had to think of the people more than themselves. And I'll say that advice about term limits came up several times during the week. Don Goddall was the oldest person I've interviewed so far. He was born in 1928. He served in Korea, had some stories to tell about fighting out of foxholes in Korea, which made a few quotes in the blog. It was tough to listen to and tough for him to relate, but he was a good old fella. Don said, Your parents taught you to work hard and work and be honest. Work hard and be honest. There was one incident. It was in the summertime. Folks were gone. I probably knew better, but I went out and poached an antelope, and my mom was mad. But we ate it just the same. An antelope was pretty good, one that's eaten alfalfa. Angie Kernan, who's a longtime teacher actually, said, "It's become very mean, our world, the name calling and stuff. I don't know how you change that in this world when you have your presidents and your politicians and stuff not being adults and not setting good examples. And that's pretty much where we are." And then I finished the week with the marvelous Perino family near Newcastle. The Perinos, multi-generational family, raised quarter horses and cattle for many generations. They invited me in, sat around the kitchen table. I stayed for lunch with them. And boy, I could have stayed there for another week just listening to them and talking and sharing ideas. And again, probably a family that they don't vote the way I do, perhaps, but boy, we sure agreed on a whole lot of stuff. And again, a lot of that will be in my blog. Uh, Several of the Perinos gave some good advice. You don't look down on anyone. You're not better than them. Everyone, even the bum on the street, has something I can learn from. And the final one, alcohol and drugs could be the two worst things outside of politics. So again, some major themes of this week, and I think we'll continue to see it. Hard work, helping neighbors, the importance of family, the importance of sitting down with a lot of different types of people and talking to them, discipline, strictness, honesty, the value of your word as being so important in business and dealing with other people, and a lot about how towns are changing with new people moving in. Uh, Quite a few comments in the area of, folks are moving in that don't necessarily share our values. They want to change things quickly. The Perinos talked about people buying up ranch land, and, they kind of called them the Kevin Costner crowd. The billionaires are kicking the millionaires out of up in Jackson Hole, so the millionaires are moving elsewhere. And they said folks come in and they put locks on their gates. Perino said, "We never put any padlocks on our gates. We have to get into other people's lands to get a cow out or something like that." But people moving in and they have a different set of values and they're trying to push those values on the people who live here. I'm not saying the values are right or wrong, but people who are not being neighborly in ways that are traditional, that's tough on these folks, and they don't appreciate it and they don't like it, and I think rightly so. I'll finish with this, and I'll probably write a long blog about it. And I made some comments on the Wisdom Road Facebook page. A number of people made, made friendly but snarky remarks about me being from California. Either they see my license plate or they know I'm from California, and so they make some comment about it. "Oh, you Californians all coming in to take over Wyoming." And with several folks, the Perinos and others, I really dug into that a little bit. And here's what I think is tremendously important, and I'm going to post a blog on it. I can't remember if I already did. I don't think I've already posted this one. The vast majority of people in America live on the coasts and in big cities, and this flyover country that we've gotten to call it is relatively lowly populated. But almost all of our resources that allow life for the people in the cities and the coast to exist and have since the westward migration, those resources, food, water, minerals, oil and gas, timber, almost all that comes from the middle of the country where there aren't a lot of folks. And so we have to recognize that. And that's why I made the little comment about, how many cattle can you raise on Manhattan? The food we eat, the water we drink, a lot of what we have that makes life possible comes from these areas where most of us really don't understand the lifestyle and don't understand the perspectives. Alternately, or on the same page, as I said to the Perinos, the areas where those people are have a lot to offer as well. Those tend to be the areas of where a lot of our higher education, our technology entrepreneurs, and the capital that allow resources to be extracted for the country, where that comes from. So there's a really critical symbiotic relationship between the places where people live and the places where the resources are and less people live. And yet we spend all our time bickering about the political differences, the stuff that doesn't matter as much, as opposed to this really critical relationship that does matter. And every time this week that I had a chance to sit down with folks and get past issues that have divided us politically, we found some really, really important common ground, and they value my perspective and I value theirs. So it's been a great week. Head over into South Dakota. Well, I'm in South Dakota right now, near Custer. But I'll head over to Rapid City, then down to the Pine Ridge Reservation, and then start making my way eastward across South Dakota for a really, what I think will be an exciting week. So thanks for joining me. Again, if you want to follow along more carefully, please join the Wisdom Road Facebook group. You can follow me on Twitter, or of course my blog at grantlichtman.com. We'll be seeing you down the road and look forward to having you join me on Wisdom Road.